What happens when regeneration isn't enough to heal a broken heart? Hearts? Multiple hearts? Yes, that's right. We're talking about the Doctor Who 2023 specials featuring David Tennant in another episode of What's News. Guys, I can't wait to jump to this one. If you're watching live, go ahead and shout out below where you're listening from so we can announce it here. If you're not, we hope you just enjoy the show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Joshua Noel. Sometimes I like to talk about geeking out on, and sometimes I just like to do like a quick geek flex. It's been 10 days in a row that I've worn a different pair of Captain America socks every day, and I'm just seeing how long I can keep this going. I didn't realize how many Captain America socks I own, but I'm proud of it. And also, another thing I'm proud of is a dear friend of mine who helps host this show, Christian Ashley. How's it going, Christian?
Hey, Joshua, I'm all right, man. I'm used to dealing with you, so it just is what it is.
You want to share some geek cred or anything real quick?
I don't know. We breaking the rules of your own schemes for this format of the What's News?
Yes.
Sure. I am almost done with Birth by Sleep. I'm so close. I am skipping all those terrible ice cream mini games and football mini games just so I can get to the good parts.
I don't blame you. I'm platinuming everything for some reason. Awful times. But what's not awful, what's always a wonder is when you get to see the beautiful face. The first time he's been on this show, but he has been on another show with me, the Whole Church podcast. We've had him guest, and I'm excited to have the one and only Rev Justin Coleman from, I forget the name of your church. I know it's the Methodist Church on campus of UNC Chapel Hill.
University United Methodist Church.
Yeah, it's against my DNA to say go Tar Heels, but go Reverend Justin. I could say that.
Oh man, that's just fine. That is just fine. Yeah, University United Methodist Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Nice. And you want to do any geek flexing real quick? I know you've seen these specials more than once.
So I will do, just before we get to Who, let me do a geek flex around Star Trek. So I think I have seen probably for the last 3 weeks, Patrick Stewart has either been in an audiobook or on screen for me this whole time, either with his memoir, Making It So, watching him as Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol.
That's a good one.
and catching a little bit of classic, what one might call, I guess now, classic Next Generation.
Man, yeah. Man, that's good stuff. I always love when you get to see or hear his voice. And what's interesting is recently Christian and I, which everybody listening can go check it out if you haven't yet, we did one of our drive-in episodes where we just kind of do a quick review of a movie. We did The Nightmare Before Christmas and talked about, originally they had Patrick Stewart do the opening and ending of that film.
Really?
And it's actually on the album still. So if you're on Spotify, you can hear him do the in and out of the movie, and it's like, wow, that was better. Like, I still love the movie. Like, it's hard to make that movie any better, but that might have done it. That might have done it. Oh man!
Check that out.
So I don't have any shout outs from where anyone's from yet. So if you joining live later, let us know where you're from. We'll shout you out a little bit later. For now, we're going to jump into what's known as our lightning round, where we're going to discuss what's new, what we have seen or been reading recently that isn't our main topic for the day. Just giving shout out to a couple other things. If you want to check out our comic book catch up, you can hear me talk about Hellboy Yule Cat. That's my favorite holiday thing this year. Other than that, what's new? Disney's Wish was definitely underrated. People just hate it because they want to hate something. That's my take. Yeah. Christian, you have anything for our lightning round of our what's new?
Yeah, I haven't seen Wish yet. I've heard all the outrage and whatever, so I'll just watch the movie on my own and decide whether I like it or not. So I'm still watching Monarch, Legacy of Monsters.
I need to check
that latest episode. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. Like, I'm still enjoying it. I'm still in it to win it. I want to see more of my big G on screen as time goes on there. And that the flashbacks are pretty good. And then other than that, let's see, what else have I been doing? Oh, Ultraman Blazar is still amazing right now. We're getting closer to the finale there. The conspiracy is kind of getting worked out by the crew, trying to figure out like what's going on there. Really enjoying Ultraman Blazar. And last but not least, I'll go with the Faraway Paladin season 2 is about to end right now, and they're confronting the big bad dragon they've been after this whole season. I'm ready for that. If you want a good example of a good isekai, go watch the Faraway Paladin.
Mm.
All right. Reverend Justin, you have anything, what's new that's not our main topic today that's been coming out recently you've been into?
Well, Christian named one of them because I was going to talk about Monarch, which has been really interesting. And like you say, I'm glad about the flashbacks. I'm interested to see where all this goes. It's been a fun series. It's kind of a slow burn, but a good one. And though it's a little bit sci-fi adjacent, no, I think it works for sci-fi. For All Mankind, I don't know if you've seen this show. I have really enjoyed it. The whole premise of the show, and it's got I think 3 into its 3rd season now, is how would it have reshaped history and primarily the American psyche if we did not win the space race? And it's like one of the coolest science fiction shows that like no one is watching. So for all mankind is and they didn't do Humankind because it starts back in the 60s, right?
When
my dad's
where
been
do I
hyping
watch
that
this
one up a lot.
Where's it at?
I watch it on Apple TV. I mean the Apple TV station, whatever you call it.
I think I'm gonna have to cave and get Apple TV. I tried so hard not to get it because it's like there's not a ton that I care about, but I just so badly want to see Monarch. I'm about to just do like at least. Does Apple TV have a free trial? I might have to. I have a day off tomorrow, but just
Well, you might want to wait till the whole thing's done. Then you can binge it.
True. Good idea.
With that free trial.
Christian with the wisdom here. See, I was gonna go like around everybody do one, but y'all just dumped everything because Christian dumped everything. Christian led a bad example. Now I have to.
Well, that's because you don't have the slides like you should, Joshua. You didn't ask us.
It's fine. I'm leading bad examples too today. We're just raw and we're just kind of stumbling, and it's what we'll say, real people, real podcast, live stuff. It just happens. No, for those who listen to our short stories episode, I am already on my first Madeline Miller novel, so I'm going through the Song of Achilles. Oh, that's so good. It's incredible. As far as stuff that's actually new, really, I've been digging a lot of these trailers that have been coming out recently, looking at the Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, some of the trailers for like Echo, some of the stuff that Marvel is going to be putting out, Deadpool. We have a lot to be excited for next year. TVs, movies, games. I'm like, this is it's gonna be a big year. I'm already thinking I might get a PS5. I'm like, I might have to finally cave. I've been holding out, but we got good games, good movies coming out next year. 2024 is gonna be huge, and Doctor Who will be like back full swing.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of new games, they did reveal a Blade game. They're not sure whether it's just going to be on
that's
Xbox
one of the trailers,
or if it's going to be all over for all platforms. But either way, I really want it.
I need it bad. It looks so cool. That looked so cool. Yeah, the Game Awards this year, the Game Awards have just become a second E3 where they're just announcing games, really. It's really all it's about. And I'm okay with it. I'm here for it. But what I'm more here for...
E3's gone for good now, apparently.
But what I'm more here for is to talk about Doctor Who. And of course, the one, the only, David Tennant is back. Which that means I get to talk about David Tennant. I get to say allons-y as much as possible. And no one can really judge me too much for it now. Because it's like, I guess that's relevant again. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know there's going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen it, stop and watch it. Or just skip the ones you haven't seen, whatever. Or if you don't care about spoilers like me, let me just tell you, a lot recently that I've been aggravated with like TV show runners and stuff where they're like, I watched The Golden Bachelor with my wife and it's, oh, it's going to be such a huge twist, such a huge surprise at the end. And I'm like, I bet they get married. Wow, they got married. And it's like, they keep doing this thing where they tell us huge twists, like with MCU and stuff. And I'm like, I've got to the point where I don't believe show writers anymore when they say huge twist. I should have believed Russell T Davies. There was a huge twist. Man, I can't wait to get into it. And we're going to do what he did to me and make everybody wait to talk about that huge twist. Because we're going to start with the first special, The Star Beast. First reactions. Justin, we've been waiting. We finally get, I know some people love Jodie Whittaker's take. I liked her as the Doctor. I didn't like the show with Chris Chibnall. A lot of us have been waiting. David Tennant coming back with Russell T Davies as the showrunner. For those who don't know, just a little bit of backstory. Russell T Davies left the show originally because his husband had cancer. He went through a lot, which actually does inform the show because you see where he writes this this healing process into what all is going on with these 3 specials. And it's incredible. My first take, The Star Beast, I was like, okay. I was waiting for a David Tennant Doctor Who come back. I loved it, but it was like, oh, this is just a normal David Tennant Doctor Who. And the more I sat on it, the more I was like, oh yeah, this is what I liked about Doctor Who. This is what it's supposed to be. Even though it was a normal episode, it was like, okay, we're just getting back to what it was supposed to be before we do any of the other stuff. That was my first reaction. Now, what about you, Reverend Justin? What were you thinking?
So I have a very similar feeling because this needed to be given all the tensions in the Who fan base, which at some point we can talk about because I'm not always in agreement with the overall fan base. For instance, Capaldi and Jenna Coleman loved that duo.
Oh, me too.
And not everyone does. But this needed to be a reset, and I think the wisdom of bringing David Tennant back was that there's been so much tension in the fan base, and for Who to continue well, we needed this. And I had a very similar feeling that you had. It started, and I thought, oh, this is what Doctor Who's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
Again, I really appreciated Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and with a different writing and them not trying to do so much at once, which we'll come back to. Without them trying to do so much at once, I think that could have been a great run. But this had some feeling of that modern day classic Doctor Who that we have all come to love.
Oh yeah. It really it felt like with The Timeless Child, which Christian and I have spoken about recently on another episode, so go check that out, guys. In the show notes below, we'll have all the Doctor Who episodes we've ever done. The most recent one before this is one I'm talking about. But it felt like with the Timeless Child stuff, it was almost like they took the Doctor's past and made it into a jigsaw puzzle and was just playing around. More on that later. Christian. Sorry, I just do that quick reference. And then, they kind of brought it back to what it was supposed to be. I like that Reverend Justin's with me. Christian, be the odd one out. Tell us you hated it.
Well, I can't do that. That'd be lying, and lying's a sin. Because, man, this was a return to form for me. I was thinking, in the back of my mind, why couldn't Jodie have had a writer like this during her tenure as the Doctor? That woman deserved better. And, it's is it just fan service that David Tennant is back? No, as we will find out later, there's an actual character purpose to the Doctor having that face again. This is what I wanted during the tenure of the 13th. There were some good ones in there every now and then. For the most part, I just wasn't in it to win it. Yeah. Here I'm back. All 3 of these, I have very little bad to say about them.
Yeah. One might say number 13 was rather unlucky. But we all brought this up. So let's pause for a minute. A lot of the Who fan base actually are kind of torn about David Tennant coming back. A lot of people, even Peter Capaldi, said something about how part of the point of the Doctor is that he moves on, he becomes someone new, and returning to an old face. A lot of people didn't like that decision. It sounds like all 3 of us are in favor of it, but does anybody want to show some mercy, maybe, give some credence to the idea on the other side, or where they're coming from, maybe kind of explain that a little bit?
Let me let me say two things about this. So one,
Okay.
first I want to commend it because it was set up. I mean, this is the whole Tom Baker return, and so I'm also a fan of that classic Doctor Who. I've watched all of the available episodes. Number 4 was my doctor before David Tennant showed up on the scene, and so when in that interaction with Tom Baker and Matt Smith, as Tom was the great curator.
That was great.
The whole idea that you're going to revisit some old favorite faces from time to time has been set up. And so we were all just kind of waiting to see how that would happen again. The thing that some fans seem to feel is that every time things go a little bit left, I don't mean that politically. I just mean it just goes into a different direction. It's bring David Tennant back because David recenters us. And I mean, he is the Tom Baker of modern Who, right? And there's such strong feelings. I think that the way they handle this character arc, from my part, answered some of the concerns of the fan base. Like, is this guy going to just keep on showing up and then, regenerating and just breaking our hearts over and over and over again? I think they handle it. I can understand where the concern came from, because I had a little bit of that in me as well, even though I thought this was a smart move. But I think they handled it well.
Yeah. And we'll get more to this later, but sometimes, as much as I like the idea that we keep moving forward, we keep changing, sometimes we do need to take a step back and maybe revisit some stuff. And again, I'm going to dig in this a little bit deeper later on, but as someone who has had some PTSD, after my accident, there was about a year before my accident that I couldn't get those memories. Like, it was like I couldn't quite access them. And a lot happened in that year. I was 22, that's one of those years you go through some stuff sometimes. And now these memories are starting to come back, and it's like, oh, I could keep moving and act like that would never happened. But now that I remember it and I kind of realized I never processed that, like, to me, a lot of what they do at the end of this actually spoke to me pretty deeply. So I actually like that they did that, made the decision. But I do get it. If we keep going back and we just live in the past, that's also bad. And we don't want to see the Doctor live in the past either. I did see a meme that I thought was really funny, though, is that it's the 5/10th Doctor. Hers is the 70th anniversary special. I love that.
If I could just offer a response to what you just said, there did seem to me to be a kind of lack of sustainability around the whole modern trajectory of the Doctor. So in the classic, you got, the Time Lords are everywhere. But we have been dealing with, and I know we'll talk about this as we look at the third special, but the Doctor has been dealing with trauma this whole time. And the various, the brief healing moments that have been a part of these last seasons in the modern era have been brief. Because it's almost like the trauma was necessary to write any story. And so, the part of that question is like, how long can this go on? We're just watching different personalities process the same trauma. And we know this in our own lives. It can take quite some time. But what does a healing journey look like when you're that many centuries old? Another aside, like, how old is the Doctor again now?
A billion, maybe? If we're including Hellbent, a billion?
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, Tennant said a billion. Hellbent 4.5 billion, but it's
that's
like
just something, man.
2,000 at the last spoken count. So it's anyway. But how long are we going to be dealing with this? What does healing look like across those millennia?
To bring it to real world, I mean, I'm not going to get too real with this, but guys, look at the Middle East. Genocide and all the stuff that we see in the Bible, that does take time to heal. In fact, what we hear in the next special we're going to talk about, when they ask the doctor how long it's going to take him to heal, and he says 1,000,000 years, maybe, yeah. Like I hate to say that, but genocide isn't something that you take lightly, and when you feel the responsibility of that, like the doctor does, man.
Yes.
And I would like to just kind of add this kind of, maybe this is too political for me, but yeah, whatever. Hey, if we do nothing, you should feel some responsibility for the evil that happens in the world. And maybe that includes genocide sometimes. And that's a hard thing to take on. And that's why we have Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. I did want to do one other thing I wanted to mention in this, because a lot of my Christian friends have to bring this up in episode 1. Do you guys think they pushed too hard the non-binary stuff? So part of the thing here, now that the doctor's been a woman, now he's a man again. There's a character in this who is a transgender actor who also is a transgender character. And, whenever Donna became Donna Doctor way back when, she did the binary. So they brought that back up for this. Donna's not supposed to see the doctor's face again. She sees it. She's taking all this in. But since she had a child, the child also bears some of that. So when they're going binary, she's going non-binary. Was that too in our face, on the nose, or did that fit? Would it feel forced to you guys? What do you think?
I know who I'm dealing with. And he's been doing this the entire time he's been in control of Doctor Who, so why would he stop now? So you know what I did with that information when I saw it presented? I disagree, but I know what I'm dealing with, so I'm going to focus on the things that I like. I'm not going to be that person that has that YouTube videos like Doctor Who's gone woke 2023, and it's like, well, by that definition, it's been woke since it started. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like it. I think to an extent it makes sense given what he was trying to do with the Doctor and Donna being two different beings in this sense. And what we do get later on with 14 and 15 splitting off quite literally from each other. Like, I think that kind of fits. I know what he's going with, but I also know the intent behind what he's going with. So I just shove it to the back of my mind and move on with my life. I know who I'm dealing with.
Yeah. I actually, at first I thought, even though I actually do agree with a lot of this stuff, I think transgender issues are very real. I think non-binary is just kind of a truth of science, in my opinion. But I still felt like it was a little in our face. Like they were just kind of throwing that out and kind of making it too much about messaging. And like, dude, I'm here to watch an alien with 2 hearts run around and zap things with a sonic device, But once you get to episode 3 and you kind of see that it's not just law and chaos, that like I think that it's the non-binary stuff is more than just talking about gender here. I think this was just kind of some foreshadowing. So once I had that third special out of the way, I was like, oh, okay, actually kind of makes sense that they did this and kind of started with this to foreshadow what comes later.
Yeah.
What do you think, Reverend Justin?
I had a pastor friend who has a child who is non-binary say, this is a new version of woke who, and it was not said in a negative way. And this person said, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the way that there's this intentional nuancing of language. And so yeah, my sense was that, well, let me back up. What I have loved about Doctor Who since Missy, and I'll just tell you, Missy is still my favorite instantiation of the Master. Others have been
Everybody
great.
has it. Yeah.
I
love John Simmons.
Yes. But Missy, I just thought, oh, this is so good. And in part because of the different places the character went. But here's the thing: this is the first time we see clearly that regeneration life is normally trans life. It's transformative and transitioning in every sense of the term, and it's normal. It's normal, just like and you remember in the Bells of St. John episode where Missy is talking to Clara about her relationship with the doctor, Missy's relationship with the doctor. And Missy says, look, what we got goes so far beyond the way y'all deal with y'all sexualize things and how you deal with gender. So it was almost like this we time lords and time ladies, time people are going to show y'all how to think on these things in an elevated level. And I liked that. I liked the normalizing of it. You don't have to focus too much on it because this is just life. Y'all catch up to what this Time Lord life is. We are in our, particularly in progressive spaces, we are, constantly reinventing, adjusting our language in order to help adjust our sensibilities. And it's a good journey, but sometimes it feels like we're between haircuts. It's like it's still coming into being. And what I liked about this Time Lord society is, let's show you a society where this is so normal. This way of life is so normal. We completely take it for granted. And maybe that helps you to learn how to take it for granted in a positive way, not in a negative way, the positive sense of taking something for granted as well. And it was quite on the nose for me. And it felt, as far as Time Lord talk, maybe like a step back, even though I embrace everything that we're doing. Just it felt like a step back in some way.
So I don't want to spend all of our time on this, so I'm gonna I will say, I think one of the advantages of Doctor Who, and all sci-fi has this advantage of opening our minds to what if this is the case. So even if you don't believe any of this, when you're doing sci-fi, you should be able to put on your what if cap and kind of look through the lens of someone else. And what I think's fun, though, because even in our world, we know there are certain creatures that have both genders, and there's no way to just deny that. They have literally both anatomies attached to them. So we know that is a thing that exists within biology. So even if you want to take the conservative approach that that's not true with humans, you can still put your mind in the place of, this is true of Time Lords. And for those of us who do want to put it, with humans, it's like, okay, this can actually help us explore a lot what does it look like, because Time Lords are very human-like. So I think it allows both to have rooms to kind of expand our horizons and challenge ourselves. The thing I didn't like, though, was when the non-binary character basically told the doctor he couldn't understand because a male-presenting doctor couldn't understand. Not that I disagree with males can't understand things a female, but we're talking about a species who's literally been both genders. I feel like you might be pushing it a little bit, because it seems like they don't have the same relationship to gender that we have, like you were discussing. So I'm like, I feel like that felt a little off to me. But other than that, sure, why not?
Well, it felt off to me because, again, after that many thousand or maybe a billion years of Time Lord life, I mean, particularly as we think about this timeless child bit. Now, granted, there's been some forgetting in there, but if the hope of progression is that if you've been both female and male, you've lived this non-binary life, that it would teach you something such that no matter what instantiation of the doctor, you carry that wisdom. Because what I don't want is for a male presenting doctor to have lost what they learned when they were a female presenting doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want that. That's regressive.
I think it would have been a lot more interesting for the doctor to be making a lot of references to, well, when I was a woman, I actually, like that would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So it just, it's the non-regressive is hopeful to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Christian, did you have anything else to add? I know we're a little bit more on the progressive end of this, both me and Justin, so I didn't want to leave you out before moving on.
Yeah. Now, I was actually surprised that Rose didn't end up becoming a companion for 14.
Me too.
At this
Like
point
I thought
in
he
time.
would just kind of tag along.
Yeah, I thought they were setting Rose up for that, but
they do go to Mars,
though. Yeah, that is true, off screen, but it did happen. So, but Donna is like my favorite companion that isn't named Ace, and so I was happy to get the Donna back. Like I thought her story done and over, and what this special showed is that hey, there's a way past that inevitability. Look, there's no way you can go back and see Donna ever again. There's no hope. Look, there is hope. You just gotta be screwy with how things work, and that's what Doctor Who does really well. And I love seeing the Doctor do that in this.
And anyone who's a fan of the 60-year-long series and has seen a substantial part of it has some bad hot takes. My bad opinion for this episode is that Donna Noble is my least favorite of the Doctor Who companions. She's so annoying to me. But I liked her more in this.
I will never understand.
Yeah. So yeah, that first episode, the Doctor comes back. He has a familiar face. He's trying to figure out, why do I have this face again? Boom. He sees Donna, who he's not supposed to see, because if she saw the Doctor again, he caged off part of her mind, and it could open things up, cause a lot of trauma, cause her to just break, because she's seen inside the Doctor's brain, and humans can't handle all that. Sci-fi stuff happens. He solves the sci-fi stuff. Donna ends up having to have that wall broken down. She starts having that meltdown, but then her child also experiences it and kind of pulls a Guardians of the Galaxy 1 where they share the burden, and that causes them to live somehow. And then we get to Wild Blue Yonder happens next, because Donna Noble goes into the TARDIS for a brief moment and spills coffee on the console, and boom, they show up. They see Sir Isaac Newton change gravity to mavity. Don't worry about it. And I love how so far they really just don't worry about it. Butterfly effect be damned. We're just not going to revisit that. Gravity is now called mavity. It's fine. They suddenly show up in a really interesting spaceship. Man, Wild Blue Yonder, this was, the first one was like, oh, this is what Doctor Who's supposed to be. This one was, oh my God, David T. Russell's just makes the best TV ever. Like, I was so blown away. I've seen this more times than I can count. It's already something that I just have on in the background while I'm doing other things. I loved this. This might be one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes. Without completely yielding to recency bias, this might be a 10 out of 10 even. I loved this episode. Like, my first reaction was, oh my God. I was like, I gotta watch it again, because I think I must just been in a mood. So let me sleep. The next day, see it again. There's no way it was that good. Oh my God. And then the next day I was like, oh, yep, nope, it's just that good. Christian, I'll let you start this time. What was your first reaction to Wild Blue Yonder?
How could he pick the wrong Donna? No, it was that moment of this is a really fun exploration, kind of in a midnight sense from an older, from Tennant's run of, hey, this thing you don't understand, or like what was that Star Trek Voyager episode where those interdimensional beings end up in a holodeck and they think that this is what reality actually is. So Voyager's crew has to do something about that. Or even you can go further back to Lovecraftian ideas of these things you can't comprehend. How do they interact with a human being? And they play it really well here, because we have don't blink. Now we have don't think, and that's done extremely well here. It's fun to see the shenanigans that go on when they keep getting split up, and like you would think after all the time they've known each other, they would know each other a lot better, but they're only human or Time Lord in this situation, and they still screw up. It's so much fun.
Yeah, man.
This is like it's like a black box theater two-person play, where it's just, and so you go to those and it's got to be good. I mean, if you got two people, on a stage in a minimalist set, and so they managed to on a spaceship, they managed for me to capture the feel of that minimalist set with two folks doing some great acting with a great storyline. And so it did feel like top-notch Doctor Who. I mean, this is solid classic Doctor Who, Doctor Who that we love. And they did so much with, when you think about it, so little. As they are, because the nemesis in certain way is themselves. They are their own nemesis, and it was so brilliantly done. I love that episode,
man. Honestly, I got chills when David Tennant's doctor, the 14th Doctor, had that little mental breakdown in the hallway. I literally had chills. I was like, oh, I know what that is. Like, and some of this, I feel like if you haven't had some of this kind of trauma in your life, I wonder if it sits as well, but I feel like at our age, probably a lot of us have had some kind of trauma, and you're like, oh no, I know what he's feeling. And you're just like, oh man. Okay, Christian, real quick, how would you summarize Wild Blue Yonder? What happens in this episode?
So after the coffee mishap and meeting Sir Isaac Newton and destroying the word gravity and all of history, the Doctor and Donna end up on this spaceship that is seemingly at like the edges of our known universe. And they're figuring out, okay, where's the crew? Why is there only a robot here? Oh no, what are these strange beings that have now taken on our appearance, but they can not keep their hands straight, or their fingers are too long, and they're just repeating stuff back out of this. Like, what's happening here? They get separated from each other. Like, uh, Donna learning more about where the Doctor is actually from that. Well, actually, no. Does she actually learn? It's that sense of, yes, where he was born, it was Gallifrey was her answer, and that wasn't right, or was it him? Sorry, that messed up my head. Every time they switch perceptions, like, which one's the real one? Which one's the fake one? So if I get anything wrong, that's why. That my memory's dying as I get older. And eventually they get to the point where they just have to flee the ship because they cannot let these beings get into regular space because they just think that our emotions are too much for them to handle. They think that we're irrational beings. We should all die and all that. So they're going to get the heck out of the ship, blow it up so they can't follow him. Doctor picks the wrong Donna, realizes his mistake, thankfully, with a couple of seconds to spare, puts the other one back on, takes the real one, they escape.
Man, some of the stuff I love with this, though, hey, I got to stop with the Mavity thing. Like, the fact that they just changed the word gravity to Mavity was genius. The amount of memes and stuff I see on Facebook of, like the play of, perhaps I'll try to find Mavity. The movie that Gravity changed the poster, now says Mavity on it. And I'm like, I love it. I love that they did this. They just randomly gifted us this inside joke, and I love it. Outside of that, there's so many times you see these shapeshifter things, and it's like, oh no, I know it was the real you because I know you better than anyone else. The fact that they went out of their way to not have that, to be like, actually, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter how well you know you. If the shapeshifter's thing is to take on your memories, you're going to be indistinct. Like, you're not going to be able to make a distinguishing, at some point. And it's like, I love that they went that. They didn't go with some kind of loophole. Oh no, only Donna knew this about the Doctor. Like, I'm so glad they didn't take the easy way out with that.
This was good. This was good Doctor Who thriller here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like Blink. It's just this.
It's so good.
It's like this is scary. And you could have probably even gone a little bit further and even made it scarier. And what's so scary is these folks are downloading your life, and at a certain point you won't be able to tell. They can do everything that you can do, and without your sense of I mean, but they're bent on destroying. So without your
Yeah.
sense of care for life and preservation, these are some of the most dangerous creatures out there, which is why they've got to hang out at the edge of space where not even the Doctor has been that far because of what they potentially could do in reality.
Well, and that's
And he
another thing I
uses
like
one of the
is
Doctor's greatest strengths against him, which is his brain. There's a whole
you
scene like
can't
in a
think.
normal episode. This would
If
be
you
that
think,
moment. Oh, I figured it out. But no, figuring things out is the bad thing to do.
Yes.
yeah, because they could feel your thoughts. They're downloading your thoughts, and it's. I love that the captain of the ship that was there before, even though you don't meet them, that character is incredible. They figured out if things go slow enough, if they just killed themselves, they can end what's happening here. And then the Doctor comes in the situation afterwards and almost messes it up because he's too smart for his own good. I love that. Even I think there's even a sense of the non-binary stuff in here, but instead of it being like the last time, so at the edge of the universe, there's literally nothing, which the Doctor's explaining that humans just don't have the capacity to understand what nothing is yet. And I loved that. Even though it was a little bit condescending, I still was like, no, actually, I like that explanation that humans just can't get nothing, because I think that's probably true. Part
It's
of
just like
why we
eternity.
have so many debates around what it means if God created ex nihilo or not, inside Christianese, but it's interesting. I think that is part of why we have those debates, is we just can't understand what nothing is. And then the non-binary thing, though, is I don't think these creatures, they were called not things. They were shapeshifters, all the stuff. They were trying to become things. And what they were going to become is the first thing that they're able to mimic. So they're not things trying to become things. And what does it mean to be a being that doesn't have being? That's fascinating. And the reason I'll say it's non-binary, I don't think they were good or evil. I think they're outside of our realm of moral ideas, and what they saw was who we are were things that destroy. So if they're going to be being, well, the beings of our universe are genocidal maniacs. So that must be what it means to be. And I think it really brings up this question of morality and what does it mean to just exist? What is existence? And that's why we have a reverend on the show. Justin, what is existence?
Well, I don't know if I'll go there, but I want to turn back to what you were saying about this. They're in so many ways they are non binary, but they don't have they are completely I don't know. I want to say they're agnostic about everything, right?
Yeah.
And so or indiscriminate. That's what I actually want to say. I want to say it's indiscriminate, and it's indiscriminate in a way like zombieism is, right? It's this constant consumption that has no end. I mean, it's not. We're not attaching anything moral to it, but this is the kind of the social critique of zombieism is a social critique of what it means to consume in an indiscriminate way. So they're like these. It's a different kind of zombie.
Yeah,
is what they are, and what's dangerous is there would be potentially no end to their consumption. Again, like you say, it's not necessarily that they're trying to be malicious or that they're trying to achieve some good. It's just that they're consuming.
And also this is not really relevant to the like morality questions or anything around this, but I just gotta say, the way that they moved, and sometimes they kind of like changed their bodies to be able to move faster, very much reminded me of the newer It movies, and the way they have the that being move. I was like, oh yeah, it was creepy. Sorry, Christian. Let's go to you. As we're thinking of this like non-discriminatory, just destroying this evil, not evil, or what does it mean to just be? What is existence? Is existence consumption? Is existence good or evil? Can you exist in our world without being what the not things observed from our universe?
You give me an hour, I can type you a 10.5-page paper on that. But for right
And
now,
everybody will proceed. The rest of the video is us watching Christian type. Go ahead.
No. Well, you gave me a difficult question to answer. I'll do my best. And I'm sure there'll be flaws in what I say. So feel free to pick it apart, pick it to pieces. Existence is being. It is the act of being alive, whether that state is I am at my present right now or I'm my glorified state later on. It is the ability to think for myself, not being controlled by another being, having my own thoughts, way to express it, and then enacting that will upon the world, whether that, once again, be this present world or where we end up later on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that gets to God creating humans with free will and all that kind of stuff. And I think it gets to why these are not things and why I don't think of them as evil, because they weren't really thinking for themselves. They were downloading how David Tennant thought. They were downloading how our universe thought, how we felt, what we did. They weren't coming up with that in of themselves, which is why they were not things. They were beings that weren't beings. And I think the reason that we could say we are, I think, therefore I am, that whole statement is, cliche, whatever, but I think that's because that's how God made us. God made us with free will, and that is how we define existence. That's how I would put it. Justin, does all that sound good? Did I accidentally say any heresies or anything there?
No, I don't think there's anything heretical there. I mean, it really is this. I'm trying to think through their whole sense of agency and free will, because there did seem to be a part of their existence that was predetermined. And again, I'm trying to figure out how to name that. I mean, they are hardwired to consume. So they were nothing when starved of everything. That's what the first pilot of the ship tried to do in jettisoning themselves from the airlock, because it put these beings in a state of complete neutrality. But when they are, and so they don't seem to have any agency in that moment when they're neutral. But when in proximity to others that do have agency, there is this, it's almost predetermined that these beings, they're only hardwired to do one thing, that is to consume. And so, yes, they're going to take on the personalities or things like that of what they consume, but they will consume, hardwired for it.
Which, man, see, now that just leads me to, and I don't want to spend all of our time here, but I think this is actually an important discussion, because it's not just an abstract thing of what does it mean to exist, but even when I'm thinking like practically, I think when I'm doing the things where I am, I'm around certain people, so I'm behaving a certain way. They're this political party, so I just kind of form my beliefs around them, form myself around other people. I think I'm actually taking some of my own agency, some of my own being away from myself. I'm living, maybe if we're going to use biblical terms, I'm living with like a yoke. I'm living in slavery. And I think part of what it means to really trust God, to trust Jesus, and to live in Christ is to let God kind of take that bondage where you feel like you have to mimic those around you away, and that you can go back to true agency, being your true self in Jesus, not just, a puppet that's doing what the Bible says, not just a puppet that's mimicking what's around you, but truly your true self. I know I kind of probably sound like C.S. Lewis, but actually, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, I think I might have just accidentally stole someone else's thoughts. Oh no, where's my agency?
Well, as Stanley Hauerwas once said, that when you think you've had an original thought, it just means you forgot where you first heard it.
Yeah, true. Which ironic to think about when we're talking about agency and what does it mean to exist, and not just being like those around you.
Right.
But I still think it's a valid thing. I think it's a valid thing. If you find yourself needing to be like those around you, maybe you're starting to lose some of your own agency. And that's where I turn to God. But, I also think there's therapy and different stuff for that. And I think it's important to your own well-being, your own health, that you stay true to your own agency and not become a not thing and walk around like it.
Right.
Okay. Let's move on to the last one here. So during Wild Blue Yonder, David Tennant plays a game. He invokes superstition. He tells them, all kind of vampire stuff. They have to count salt before they can pass it. So he poured a line of salt out, and he, at the end of the episode, is like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have played a game at the edge of the universe. That could be bad. I was like, never mind. I won't think about it. Then we come to the giggle. Reverend Justin, you want to, what happens in the giggle? Before we do first reactions, because I can't give my reactions without spoiling things. Go ahead and spoil it for everybody. What happens in this last of the 3 David Tennant specials of 2023?
Well, this is a great way to bring back an early character from classic Doctor Who. We're going straight back to the first Doctor, Peter Hartnell, and the Toy Maker, this celestial being of seemingly infinite power, cannot classically die, but if the Toy Maker has an Achilles heel, it is that the Toy Maker is bound by the rules of the game. So you've got this infinite power, but you are bound by the rules of the game. And in classic Who, the Doctor outwits the Toy Maker. And when his niece says, "All right, we beat him," he says, "Well, you can't kill this one, and I'm going to see him again in time." Well, so here we go. We're back, and so David Tennant's Doctor and Donna Noble get back to Earth, and everything is in disarray. We have this beautiful moment where the Doctor is reunited with Donna's grandfather, which is a very sweet moment.
Oh, yeah.
And then the rest of the time is, okay, so how are we going to what's going on in this world, in this chaos that the celestial Toy Maker has created? Because what the Toy Maker has done to society, as he's encrypted himself into the first television broadcast, which is like a sneaky way of entering into our reality again, in a very creepy way of doing so as well. But so now everybody has to win. So there's this part of the celestial Toy Maker's nature is being imbued into the world where everybody is that's all they care about. And so it's causing havoc. So it's again, what we see in these episodes of Doctor Who is them meditating on an aspect of human nature that, if taken too far, can be harmful. And so the Toy Maker is playing around with our reality. And so then the Doctor must again find a way to outwit this Toy Maker and in a game, or what turns out to be a series of games. Because again, the Toy Maker is bound by the rules of the game, and what higher rule of a game do you have than the best of 3?
Yeah. Man, I did love that. Yeah, we're gonna get to the end later, I think. But just with the premise of like what happens here, this, from my understanding, the first time you see the Toy Maker, way back when, the Doctor actually falls outside of reality. So that's where the Toy Maker lives. He lives outside of our universe, outside of reality. And that's where he's not, he's not chaos, he's not lawful, he's just play, which is its own thing that's separate from these other things. D&D, beware. But you have that. The next time, I think, he sees them in a pocket dimension in an audiobook that I mentioned on our last What's New episode. This is the first time the Toy Maker is in our world. And I have mixed feelings on it. I don't love it as much as Wild Blue Yonder. I love Neil Patrick Harris. I think it was perfect casting. I loved a lot of what happened. I actually really love the messaging here. he talks about how everyone has to be right now. You see them tweeting and saying, different stuff and canceling people and all these things. And I'm like, oh yeah, that actually just is our reality. like, oh, that is 2023. So you see that being just what it is. Man, it was incredibly done. Awesome stuff. The only thing I didn't like is how the toy maker loses in the end. Because truly, it was just random chance. The doctor didn't outsmart him or anything. He won a game of catch because some random phenomena happens that's not supposed to happen that gave him a biological advantage. And it's like, okay. That was disappointing. The rest of it, I absolutely loved. So I would have given the last one 10 out of 10. This one I would have given 9 out of 10. But because all the characters and everything was so well done, the scenes were shot so beautifully. Even the CGI was done so just incredible. The giant Neil Patrick Harris with the puppet of David Tennant kind of running around. I was like, oh man, it looked cool. It was great. I'd still give it probably like a 9.5 out of 10, maybe a 9 out of 10. It's not as great as Wild Blue Yonder to me personally, but man, the characterizations and everything, fantastic. Christian, what was your first react? Oh,
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, Christian, go. Yeah.
Yeah, this entire episode was a personal attack against me. I love winning. I love being right. And how dare you ever make me the villain? How dare I live in a world where dummy for theology exists and there's never an answer at the end of any episode? Why do I listen to this drivel? No. This was perfect for me. Not like a perfect as in like 10 out of 10, but like I loved experiencing this episode, seeing like Neil Patrick Harris was on fire as the toy maker, like switching from these fake accents to fake accents just to screw with people and screwing over 14 with like making fun of all the companions he lost along the way. What a more villainous thing can you do to bring up that trauma, which does get addressed near the end very well. And we'll get to that when we get to that, because I think you want to save that for else. And I agree somewhat with like, oh, it's random chance, but it's also a game. And games are affected by random chance. It'd be like if you rolled the dice. Well, maybe it's a 50-50 shot. Maybe some statistician can come and tell me that there's actually a 51 to 49% chance or whatever. It's up to random chance. Like, it doesn't matter if I roll a 6 and playing Trivial Pursuit or whatever, or whatever game I'm playing. That means I get to go before somebody does a 5 or a 4. It's random chance. It's a game. So I understand, but it wasn't as big of a deal for me.
Oh, yeah, no, I understood it. I actually think that I kind of like some of what they do, because I think the reason it was done the way it was is because Russell T Davies didn't fall for the trap of making this the 60th anniversary where everything ends perfectly and it's awesome and it rings and it stands on its own. Instead, he said, no, this is part of a TV series and it's supposed to set other things up. And I think it set other things up beautifully. Justin, what was your first reaction?
Well, just all of the above, everything you all have said, I want to echo. This was a great episode. I too thought the ending, I was waiting for something to be very, very clever, but I think it was very clever to go to the first game, this basic game. I did like that very much. I do want to just point out something that I really appreciated. As you noted, this is setting up some other episodes, but was the sub, it's not even a subplot, it's just a bit of information about the master.
Yes.
The master being trapped in the toy maker's golden tooth. Now, here's the thing about, so this was so classic Doctor Who. I mean, this goes back to even classic Doctor Who, more than our modern generation. The master is a master of not dying. So the doctor might be the timeless child, but by gosh, the master will find a way not to die. And what I liked about that detail was the toy maker actually thought the toy maker defeated the master. This is the classic master move. I'm going to pretend to die or be trapped so that I won't die. So when the celestial toy maker didn't...
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but the celestial toy maker didn't understand is the master actually won.
Yeah.
Just before the master's death, a game is played that actually preserves the master. That's going to give the master a new
Yeah.
lease on life. I mean,
Which, and then a female hand picking up the tooth at the end. I
yes.
know they want
Another
us to think it's
callback.
Missy. I don't know if it is, but I know they want us to think that.
Well, but this was also in the John Sims. I think it was the.
Oh yeah,
the-
yeah.
Yeah, remember when
His
when
wife's
the
true, I
master
think.
died? Another time, there's the
Yeah.
essence of the master ensconced somehow in that
Yeah.
ring. So this, and we saw that ring picked up, and that's how the master was
yeah.
revived.
And that's like
Here,
our
the tooth is picked up.
that's like our Batman Joker moment. But then there's even for me an even greater, not throwaway line, but a line that I'm like, that's gonna stick in my head for a while. Where even the toy maker from outside our reality, greater than our reality, says, "There's one. Even he played a game with God in one, but there's one in your universe I wouldn't dare play a game with." Wait a minute, what? Hold up, who? It's not the master. It's not God.
Yeah.
Ooh, like what do you mean?
Yes.
That's gonna haunt me. I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night thinking about who would he not play a game?
And
Just
that's
a few
someone
days
else's
because he
game
writes
to
the
play,
scripts.
he says, which
Oh,
makes
man.
you think it's our 15th Doctor, perhaps.
Man, yeah, and of course, bringing stuff from outside this reality into our reality, all this other stuff, having non-binary where it's not just lawful and chaos. Now there's play and who knows what else. In the next episode, it's gonna have goblins. Yeah, Russell T Davies, when he says we're gonna start including some fantasy, he wasn't kidding. He said there was gonna be a surprise. He wasn't kidding. Christian, could you please tell him what the surprise twist at the end of this episode was? Let's go ahead. Let's jump into this chaotic, crazy, sorry, not chaos, playful twist.
So there's a big moment where the toy maker is on a giant gun of some sort on the unit building, threatening to kill the doctor. And in any other episode, the plot armor would be on. But since we have to transition to the newest doctor, 14 bites it, like straight. Takes a beam right through his body. But with everything that's been going on with this specific regeneration, with his relationship to the Dr. Donna,
Man, yeah.
and all this funky special Whovian weirdness, instead of regenerating, he stays, but also regenerates at a later point in time to the point where there are two doctors who split from one being that have to literally be pulled apart
By generation,
for this to
baby.
happen. And we are introduced to 15, and I looked up his name to practice pronunciation, and I have
good.
completely
I
forgotten
didn't.
it. It's like
Man, Christian, I was counting on you.
Shooty, I think.
Guy.
I'm sorry if I screwed
The
that up,
15th
which I know
Doctor.
I did. Forgive me. 15, who has this brand new amount of charisma himself, like
Incredible.
seems, yeah. There's been enough time to where he has gotten over a lot of stuff and just carries himself in a different way. And the two of them join forces to defeat the toy maker in a game of catch. And
Man,
at this point in time, 14, in order to deal with the trauma of everything from even beyond the Time War to the Time War to learning about his supposed true origins, whatever, and all that mess, is going to just stay with Donna's family as like an older brother, older uncle kind of figure, just to relax for once in his goddamn
even
life.
gets his own TARDIS.
Yeah. And 15 then goes off to his own adventures, setting up what's going to be happening when 15 comes in, which I am super hyped for.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't know I could be hyped for a new Doctor again. Like I just didn't know it was possible, and they did it. I'm excited for him. I loved his scenes in this. And not only that, they went from me being like, oh, Disney's trying to make money. I was aggravated because, they're going to start we're going to start all over with season 1 again. And I'm like, oh, great. Here we go again. Soft reboot. And then I saw this and I'm like, oh, the Doctor has to actually go heal. And the 15th Doctor is what happens post-healing. We're out of the traumatic era, if we're going to go with our Taylor Swift terms. We're out of our trauma era, and we're into our healing era. And this Doctor, somehow, they caught it on scene perfectly. David Tennant, you could tell that the 14th Doctor, he's losing weight. They even mention it, that he's losing weight. He looks just traumatized, hurt. You could tell how he speaks, his little fits. You're like, that's someone who experienced trauma. And as someone who's experienced trauma, I'm like, I see it. And then as soon as 15 shows up, you're like, oh, that's That's what healing looks like. It's like, man, it was beautiful, beautiful. I was like, that's what healing looks like.
Oh my
And for
gosh.
the 14th Doctor to see what it looks like and then to be able to have the freedom to go pursue healing, that honestly, sorry, I'm trying not to like tear up. I'm like, man, it spoke to me on so many levels. It's like, you have to sometimes go revisit things, take that time and just heal.
Right.
Justin, I'd love to hear from you on this.
Well, so here's, I'm going to do a little theology here as well. So the Greek word for salvation is sozo, right? And so we translate it as salvation all the time, but it means wholeness. Wholeness in spirit, wholeness in mind, body, soul.
Mhm.
It means um, it's got this connotation of a complete healing for mind, body, spirit. That is salvation, right? So, so I like to talk about healing as a part of salvation. I mean, it's in
Yeah.
the word. It's in this more complete, nuanced definition than we often give it. And so, this healing, restorative, is not just a regenerative process. It's been this restorative process
Yeah.
that's going on here with the Doctor, and it's beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean,
No, it is.
I don't. I struggle to imagine how you could create. It's not just a restart for the series. I mean, I know it gets to do that,
Yeah.
but it's like this new lease on life,
Yeah.
which deeply honors the past, does not overlook or negate any of the trauma that was there. It is real, and I love this whole idea of like we're time lords. We heal out of, I
Out
mean,
of
just
order.
as
Yeah,
we
it's
move
fine.
back and forth in time,
Yeah.
we healing out of order.
Yeah.
But but I love that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought it was very sweet in
It was great.
that and nothing was taken away from the 14th Doctor.
Yeah.
You've got your
Or the
people,
15th.
you've got your TARDIS, and you can still travel about, but you don't feel the need to all the
Yeah.
time. You don't need the weight of the weight of the universe isn't on your shoulders, and like this whole, you've heard it said, hurt people,
Yeah.
heal people. It's like, the Doctor in 15 is still gonna move throughout the universe, working, doing all the same work. But what's that gonna look like
Yeah. I'm
from
so
someone
excited.
who has healed and can go about it with a different spirit? Oh
Yes.
Man.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Come
Man.
on.
And we got
So
to sit
good.
in the salvation stuff. Another part of what I like in the Greek, a lot of times when salvation comes up in your New Testament, it's weird because we don't have the same verb tenses in English, but it's something that happened, but is still happening. And that's something that I love because you see this here where David Tennant gets to go heal, but he's still healing. And it's like, man, man. And then you have this two sides. Like you have the one side of, man, this was just great writing, right? Like as far as like story goes, because this feels complete. It feels like he gets to heal. This feels complete. It feels good. But also you have the hey, if you hate the timeless child, guess what? Now you can write it off with that one line where the toy maker said, I was just playing jigsaw with your past.
Oof.
If you wish your doctor was still around, guess what? He might be. By generations a thing, apparently. So it's like they did all these little things that are like, okay, we have the cheap cut arounds, but that wasn't even the point. The point was the healing, was the story, and the story was beautiful. Christian, do you have anything you wanted to add to this conversation?
This is kind of like the perfect way that I've ever seen on television or anywhere else to have your cake and eat it too. When it comes to like, when we started early
Literally.
about, was it a cash grab or like a fan service just to have David Tennant show up again in the form of the 14th Doctor? Well, if it wasn't written as well as this was,
Yeah.
I would feel like it was a cash grab. I would feel like it's, oh, I need people interested in Doctor Who again. We're going to bring David Tennant back, who's our number one guy, who's pretty much not everyone's, most people's doctor when they consider the new series,
Yeah.
like he is mine. No, you get to have your cake and eat it too. David Tennant is back,
Yeah, he's still out there.
and whenever we want to, we can bring 14 back and tell stories that aren't beholden to the 10th Doctor's time.
Yeah. Whoever
And
does
that's
Doctor Who
fine
comics,
because
get on that
yeah,
Mars with Rose.
yeah,
I need to see it.
like that can happen at any point in time and make sense and not just be fan service. That's
Yeah.
and not say this
That's
isn't fan
great.
service because it is, but it's done so well that I don't
Brilliant.
care.
Yeah, and that's where I
Mm.
want to speak to the Doctor Who community. If anyone's just on YouTube and watching random Doctor Who things and sat through an hour and 10 minutes of this, you can absolutely focus on the parts of, was it fan service? Should the Doctor be able to just move on? Should we not revisit? You could sit on that stuff. You could sit on, oh, were they just trying to write off the Timeless Child with a jigsaw puzzle line? You could, whatever. You could focus on those things. But I urge everyone, please, focus on the fact that this show gave us all permission to heal, permission to realize our trauma, to not just ignore it and move forward, but to realize it and to heal. And even if you're not Christian, I think some form of salvation is possible when we're talking about salvation being this healing process that I think everybody needs. So that's the one thing I took from this. I think it gave us permission to heal, and it's something that everybody does need. So please take the permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right. We have anything else? Sorry. I'm sorry we got so deep on this, but man, like that's what the show does. It's sci-fi. It's silly. It's wacky. It's not beings that are really existing, and you know something called the Meep that's cute and cuddly, but also a chaos monster that wants to eat you. It's you know Neil Patrick Harris coming back, threatening reality and losing a game of catch, but it's also deep hurt, realizing trauma and finding healing. And that's why I love this show, because it can be silly, it can be play, it can be chaos, and it can give us permission to heal, and I love that. All right, anything else to add, guys? No, we're gonna jump to our recommendations then, as we start to wrap this one up. All right, for our recommendations on our What's News, we picked one. So if someone hasn't seen Doctor Who yet, which of these three, if they were going to use one of these three as their first episode, or I'll give you the option of saying none of these and pick another one. But if you think any of these would be a good first episode, you know, let's lift it up. I know I also said it was my favorite episode, but I truly think you could watch Wild Blue Yonder and not know a ton about the show, and what you don't know, they kind of explain for you. So I think it's a good episode in of itself to watch, just like Blink. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I mean, it's figuring out how to onboard people to Doctor Who is always a bit of a challenge. Yeah. And I've tried several different things. Often I will say, like, watch Blink.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the rest, because it's going to be so good. And I agree with you about Wild Blue Yonder. I think it is good. It's just solid Doctor Who writing, beginning to end.
Oh yeah. One thing, man, I hate to do this, but real quick side note. One thing, Russell D Davies talks about like bringing gods and mythical things back into the fold, and I've heard mention. So my very first episode of Doctor Who was The Pit, with maybe Satan. So I hear that creature might make an appearance again, and that would be so cool. I'd love that. See, because it's, you know, your first episode, you always have attachments to all of that kind of stuff. You know, so David Tennant, Satan. I love all of it. Sorry. Christian, what's your one of these three? It had to be someone's first.
If one of these had to be the first one, I mean, you can't go wrong with the first one. With the Star Beast, there's enough there. Like, there are going to be some proper nouns you're not going to understand, but 14 is new. It is an old companion. You're going to learn enough about what you need to know about Donna there for everything to make sense. Wild Blue Yonder is not a bad one, but if I had to go beyond this, I might choose Dalek for Eccleston's run, where you
That's
get his hatred of the Daleks and like their enmity between each other with just one Dalek and one Doctor, that might be where I go.
That is also a good one. Oh, man. Well, guys, if you haven't seen Doctor Who, get into it. See all the silly sci-fi craziness. Learn about the trauma. Sit in healing. And, of course, while you're doing all that, you could go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're at. Leave a rating, review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button. All the good stuff. Also, Podchaser. That helps us a lot. If you go over to Podchaser, leave us a review over there. And we need you all to do one extremely important thing for us. And that's to remember, we're all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.